Some marriages end before you're even done paying off the wedding. Some marriages end, and part of the divorce settlement is the cost of the wedding and the premarital investment. So let that sink in for a moment. We are investing heavily in the ritual. We're investing heavily in the event, but we're not investing in the life after the event. So we have to break this cycle. There are a lot of benefits to going to see someone. Yes, I'm telling you, go see someone. Have you ever seen the news where you have famous people and couples who come forward and they talk about that they're in therapy or how therapy saved their marriage? Yes, it's true that people enter relationships, and even our most successful people recognize and realize the benefit of getting therapy. And that's what I want to talk about today, that therapy saved our marriage, the opportunity to hear from some famous people and just spotlight for a moment of some famous people who have recognized or shared the benefit of getting family therapy. Why am I doing that? Because I want to make a case that you consider you and your partner getting couples therapy or the family checking in. Therapy is not always about issues of problems. Sometimes it's about maintenance, a communication check-in, a relationship check-in, a check-in of understanding where we are. Going and having a third party talk to the family is not always an issue. So let's start by telling the truth. Some of our most successful, visible, and powerful couples in this world didn't survive love alone. They survived by having an understanding and the courage to go out to get help. We've seen Michelle and Barack Obama, our president, but we've heard Michelle talk about openly discussing how attending marriage counseling helped strengthen their relationship, not fix it, but build on their relationship. Going in thinking that he needed help or needed fixing only to realize that they needed it. And so even Michelle Obama in her books and in her public speaking and Barack Obama talking about the role of therapy. We see Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith. We've seen them talk about and having spoken about how therapy have helped them in all the challenges and issues that they've had in their relationship. But being bold enough and understanding how going in and speaking with someone to help them get through difficult time. We've seen Dex Shepard and Christian Bale also go regularly advocating for the benefit of couples therapy. And of course, two of my favorite people, Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade, talking about the benefit of going and getting couples therapy. And so we see that in this effort to normalize it, to recognize that even our most famous people realize with all the financial support and how famous it is, and because the public is in their eye, they see the benefit. So you'll notice something in the names that I got here, that they were not ashamed to go get help. They were not ashamed to talk about the benefits of help. They weren't hiding. They have the spotlight on them. Everything they do becomes a public issue or a public lens, but they were not hiding that they went to get help. You also, when you think about the couples that I just outlined, that they understood that something many people still resist. Healthy marriages don't avoid therapy, they use it. These are the commonalities that we see in the benefits of going to get couple therapy and understanding how it can work. And so this is something that we pause for a second and in a moment for those of you who are in relationships and those of you that are, if you're not married, but just in a relationship, that you see the power and the benefit of getting counseling. Especially, and we pause here to talk about the benefit of premarital counseling. And I'm going to focus a little bit about that too, because I want you to check in with getting good premarital counseling and really understanding the different types of premarital counseling is a benefit, and so that you can get off to a good start for those of you who are contemplating marriage or engaged, about to get married, or those who are just in a relationship, that we can begin to explore and see the benefit of it. So let's take a look at some quick stats. 70 to 80% of couples improve significantly through counseling. They're going. 86% report meaningful improvements or resolution over issues by listening to a third party. Couples who attend premarital counseling are 30 to 50% less likely to divorce. Now, you need only look at the high rate of divorce rate, or the percentage of the number of first-time marriages that end in divorce. But when we cross that with those who have gotten counseling, not when the plane is about to crash, but who sought early intervention in their marital challenges, we see those begin to last longer. 82% improved communication skills after premarital counseling and counseling. So we see over 50% of couples are in therapy for 6 months or less, with an average of 12 sessions. And that makes sense. We call that solution-focused intervention, that you'll see that we see the improvements began to take place. So they're in that therapy for the 6 sessions, 6 months, or the 12 sessions, began to help them work through, learn better communication strategies. So when this happens, that the median couple starts therapy about 4 years into their relationship. So I'm celebrating it, but at the same time, that it kind of rings a little bell, because when we see the rate in which people divorce from when they get married, we're looking at about 7 years in. But if you're waiting 4 years, that means any dysfunctional issues that have occurred is like a weed in the lawn. Those weeds have grown pretty large. So we have to begin to look at how we do earlier intervention. You all getting therapy and going to get check-in is a benefit. Now, I'm going to be critical here, and I'm going to push this argument for therapy. Why? Because we spend thousands and thousands of dollars on the wedding. Let that sink in. The amount of money that you spend in the ritual, in the event, right? But we hesitate when to invest in what we actually need, and that is sustaining the marriage, the check-ins, the marriage tune-ups. So we spend all the money in the ritual, but we don't spend the money to do what's needed into sustaining it. And then, of course, here we are in 2026 and beyond. Wedding proposals have garnished millions and millions of views on the internet, but they fail to show or do the work that's needed to succeed. So now you put all that energy, that time, and the planning. You've got the whole family and community involved in the planning of the proposal, but no one's there. You involve no one, and you've even paid for a professional a planner to help your wedding and help your proposal, but you don't invest in what's needed to sustain that relationship or that ritual that you've just done. Some marriages end, and y'all listen to this, and this should resonate with some of y'all. Some marriages end before you're even done paying off the wedding. Some marriages end, and part of the divorce settlement is the cost of the wedding and the premarital investment. So let that sink in for a moment. We are investing heavily in the ritual. We're investing heavily in the event, but we're not investing in the life after the event. So we have to break this cycle. There are a lot of benefits to going to see someone. Yes, I'm telling you, go see someone, talk with someone. And it doesn't have to be a big issue. Just go in and just have some conversation around just some minor things that you or the family may be dealing with, especially if it's centered around big life events, where the child is going to go to college or where the child's going to get christened, or some big discussion around a job change, or dealing with someone has lost a job and just trying to cope. These become some excellent times to get in. Or even the uneasiness that someone's pregnant or the baby's on the way and the unknown is a little unraveling. These become some opportunities to kind of get in. Intimacy has suddenly disappeared, or the checking in or the romantic part has suddenly began to diminish. These are opportunities in the early stage that you go in to talk to someone. So these are some benefits of going. So, but first understand that you don't have to know what you don't know. Let me say that again. I need you all to understand that you don't know what you don't know. And that means that when you go into counseling, you begin to learn things about yourself. You begin to learn things about your relationship, things that you may not have known. But now you're going, and now just follow the language here. Now you're beginning to know what you don't know. And because now you're beginning to know what you don't know, you have new questions. So this is what happened. Going into counseling and talking to an expert third party, it improves the communication. We teaches us how to express, not to suppress our concerns. You on your own have learned to walk away. And a lot of people, when you talk to them, so what do you do? If you get too bad, I just walk away. So the therapist, I'm going to say, walk away and do what? What do you do during that timeout? How long do you stay away? What are the rules about when someone calls timeout or walks away? How do y'all come back together? Do y'all move towards resolve? So these become things are beneficial in some of the things that you're already doing, but therapy and couples counseling can begin to teach you new ways to do it. This reduces the divorce risk. Prevention, not repair. That's what we're focusing on. It's an ongoing thing. Going to counseling also builds conflict resolution skills. Some of you learn how to fair fight, not to be destructive. Yeah, so counseling, we learn new the rules of fair fighting. That means that we no yelling, or rules might be no cursing or calling people out of their names. Rules for fair fighting, and you have a third party monitoring, says deal with one issue at a time. You check in after a week when you come back, and now the therapist say how you all did. This is when we learn that when someone tried to implement the rule, but the person's emotion says, man, forget what that damn therapist says. Now y'all get back together. And now that therapist is asking, so how did it go? How did the conflict go? And then she says, well, he said to hell with the rules. Now, like a teacher, a student, a parent who didn't do their assignment now allows the therapist to kind of check in. So it builds some conflict resolution skills. You're learning new tools, and it helps better align with the expectations from finances to children to role to lifestyles. You're going with a third party, and you're beginning to learn to have good communication, right? The challenge is you have expectations, your partner have expectations, and y'all never talked about them, where they are aligned or where they're disaligned. And sometimes we discover that the expectations are different when a conflict or an issue arises, because you missed the opportunity for a check-in or a tune-up during therapy. So yes, I'm making a strong argument of why I want couples to go and do a check-in. It increases, y'all listen to this, emotional intimacy, right? It deepens it, creates understanding. Allow in a couple session when there's a change. You might need to hear her say that, when you come home, you used to kiss me on the cheek. You don't kiss me on the cheek no more. It used to say that we would hug and kiss each other goodnight when we go. We used to hold hands. When there's a change, sometimes going to therapy, it creates an opportunity to talk about the subtle changes in that relationship, and create a platform in a safe place to begin to talk about it. Going to counseling, it helps us also to identify some hidden issues. These are some childhood traumas and other things that have made their way. You brought from your childhood, you brought from previous relationships, and now they've made their way into the current relationship. Getting into therapy is going to create an opportunity to process it. If not, You can create long-term resentment from other people, and now that resentment begins to show up in your present relationship. So going also creates an opportunity to strengthen commitment between you. Couples feel more confident about the future when they're going in and they're beginning to see now that they're disagreeing better, right? Because conflicts are natural, but how you conflict, you are actually seeing it. You are now, when you begin to see change, because in therapy, you're learning when your partner's finally beginning to do what he or she is committed to do, you're seeing the behavior change. In therapy, you are learning. You're literally learning that when you see the change, pause and acknowledge it. Some of us have been so programmed to focus on the negative, it becomes all we know. Here's what I mean. Coming to a session oftentimes with me, here's a guarantee with first-time couples. It is an absolute guarantee. We're going to have a conversation about how you met. We're going to have a conversation about when you fell in love. We're going to have a conversation when you knew he or she was the one. And inevitably, someone's going to say, Dr. White, I didn't come here for that. Right? This is all the couples groups that I do. Dr. White, I didn't come here for that. And then when I have to redirect them and say, well, I need to know where you started. So then we can understand how we got to where you are now. Y'all cussing, name calling, bringing up old stuff, but that's not where y'all started. So I'm going to be a firm believer that we're going to identify the hidden resentments and the stuff that came from others. We're going to learn how to strengthen the commitment by doing that. Couples therapy helps us improve problem solving, right? The tools, not just the talk, but the tools that you began to do things differently. You learn how to come back. When there's a disagreement, you begin to learn to incorporate in your family discourse reflection, ownership, being able to take for a moment to say, this is how I'm going to do that differently, or this is how I handle it. The individual work that we do, even in couples, now you know that in every situation with therapy, you're learning that you have to process how you handled it yourself. So you can go back and then share what you've learned with your spouse. So it creates in reality, this beautiful thing I'm calling a shared vision. So it's not just love, but it's a shared direction in where you all are going in the relationship. So yes, I'm making a strong case. Now, for those of you who are seeking premarital counseling, and everybody should do it because love is not enough. I just told you that. So people who are seeking premarital counseling, there's some different types of premarital counseling. I just want to touch on a few of them. There's the traditional counseling conducted by a licensed therapist that focuses on approach, communication, conflict resolution, and addressing some specific relationship issues. Some people may go to religious or faith-based premarital counseling. It's very similar, but it's incorporating issues of spirituality, moral development. It's really what's tied into understanding how these vows work in the relationship. There's another form of premarital counseling. It's called the Gottman method. Here, right, it focuses on strengthening friendship, improving conflict management, and creating shared meaning based on research. So we're looking at best practices, and in the Gottman method, they're pausing to begin to understand it. There's self-guidance programs where you're not actually meeting with someone, but it offers convenience through virtual sessions, maybe a therapist or someone working. You get a workbook and you're working through. It's almost like an online class. And there's a behavioral couples therapy. So all these different types of therapy that reinforces positive behavior, things in that regard, it makes a very strong case for counseling. It makes a very a strong foundation that you can begin to operate on. And these are grounded in best practices in communication training, conflict resolution frameworks, where we're learning how to navigate disagreements. Going through counseling, values and expectations begin to align, which I'm going to tell you is a really, really big issue. Actually, even when people are dating, there are two different understandings of the expectation. Some stuff that you literally bring to the relationship, your understanding of the role of women and your understanding the role of men, regardless of how diluted or dysfunctional it is, you bring that into the relationship and y'all never have a communication about it. Counseling, premarital counseling helps with financial transparency and family and in-law dynamics, role and family enmeshment. So we see this. There is good counseling that occur, and you know that it's good premarital counseling when intimacy and emotional connection begin to occur, and there's that physical and emotional alignment. You know it's good counseling when the individual assessment is designed and centered around understanding the personal triggers and traumas and how they show up. And so premarital counseling is not about planning a wedding, it's about preparing for life. And so if you have the patience to do all the the wedding planning and the proposal planning, then I'm going to challenge you to build into that same, make that same level of investment. But being mindful at the same time that you don't encounter what I'm going to call some poor or unhealthy counseling. There are red flags around unhealthy counseling, unqualified people or counselors who are trying to do that work. That's a one-sided alignment, someone who tends to take the position of the other person, ignoring deeper issues like trauma and abuse and how that can show up in relationship. You're in counseling, there's no structure, there's no goal, all these things. Bad counseling just doesn't waste time. It can reinforce the dysfunction that is occurring in relationships. So we want to reframe counseling. I want to remove the word therapy for a moment. And I'm just going to say that we're going to shift the mindset. I want y'all to call it a marriage tune-up. Go in and get a marriage tune-up or a communication check-in. Let's remove the word therapy, right? Or an intimacy reboot. Some of y'all, the where intimacy is now is not where it was. Sometimes you need to go in, baby, we need an intimacy reboot, right? Now listen, you care for your car. You go get your car served, you get a tune-up, you know when to rotate the tires, you get an oil change, you know at a certain amount of time you got to get the oil change. You have an investment in your car and you call it a good car when it has had little problems and you get it to last 8 to 10 years. You put that type of investment in your vehicle. I'm going to challenge you to put that investment into the relationship, right? So what do you do when your car breaks down? What do you do when your car is not sounding right? You go in and get it checked in. So what do you do when the relationship is breaking down? What do you do when the communication is not working right? I'm telling you to go in, right? We don't think we fix it, especially when it's not broke, so we don't go in. And that's the mindset that we sometimes have in relationships is that, oh, I can fix it or I can handle it or I can deal with it myself. And that's the pushback that I'm going to give you, right? So I'm going to challenge couples and I want to speak directly to you all here, right? If you're dating, engaged, or married, I'm going to tell you this right now. Don't wait until there's betrayal to go see someone. Don't wait until silence begins to fill the room every day in your relationship. And don't wait until distance between you begins to occur. Do the intervention early. So I want to challenge you. Schedule a session. Go on. Psychology Today. Find a therapist in your area. Start the conversation. And I'm going to tell you, invest before the crisis. So let me leave you with this. Love by itself is not enough. Because love doesn't teach communication, love doesn't resolve trauma, and love doesn't automatically create alignment. And too many couples are in love, but they're unprepared to deal with the work around love and marriage maintenance. That's why relationships don't just fail because of lack of love. They fail because of the lack of tools. And so I'm going to tell you, it's time to get a checkup. It's time to check in. It's time to get help and understand the signs where help is needed. When you do this, you too will be among that percentage of people who report that my relationship is much better. And those of you who go in sooner than 4 years into the conflict, but much earlier, and you do the maintenance in your relationship like you do the maintenance in the car, you'll be among the individuals who are celebrating their 10th, their 15th, their 20th, their 35th, 37th wedding anniversary. So stay tuned, do the investment, treat it like your car, make the difference, and put your marriage and put that family and put that relationship before you do anything else. And on the other end, I'll be the first one celebrating you at your 15th wedding anniversary. I'm Dr. Gary O. White, and this is my truth.